Hello and welcome to your Wednesday evening weirding session. I'm your host, C. Savory, creator of Fractal Praxis. What happens if humanity causes mass destruction and die off? Certainly not all life will perish. So what then? Life goes on. Bacteria would grow. Other forms of life would adapt, evolve, create niches and find niches. Life would literally go on. So there's something really remarkable about the way that we humans would willingly undermine the lives of so many other beings and ourselves. It's simply that the directionality of that behavior is wrong. We are going against nature, against life's direction in the universe. By definition, as living beings, this is going against our true character, creating great turmoil, great cognitive and emotional dissonance. Humankind are apex cognitive beings. We are like worlds unto ourselves. We help complexify the universe. We are a beautiful outcome of this movement towards complexity that ecosystems pursue. Our immense wisdom and intelligence, our capacity for incredible technology, science, art, philosophy, are so mind-boggling. We are testament to complexity. And yet, it's so strange then that we would go about creating cultures meant to allow us and enable us to survive and thrive. And that this be so central to who and what we are as human and as living beings. It seems so strange. There can be no way then that we are meant to be using our powers to undermine the conditions for life itself on this planet. That is against nature and against our natures. We are acting against nature, distracted by the noise of our technological existence, by the complexity and abstraction of modern life. We're clearly not seeing how fundamentally off we are. We are not playing the right game anymore. We're trying to break the rules of a game that actually contains us and any and all meaning or success we could possibly be seeking. We're currently playing a game that requires undermining our lives having any meaning, and us having any legacy, and us having any agency. If that seems abhorrent at face value, that's because it is against nature. It is a denial of the truth of who and what we are at our core as living beings. We are mistaking ourselves as propagators of toxicity and death and destruction, and forgetting the truth at the core of ourselves as living beings. We have a wide variety of choices today, thanks to complexity. And we're failing because we are coercively, collectively, playing the wrong game. The game of globalized imperialist capitalism is exploiting and destroying us. What better game do you imagine we could be playing if we found common ground, found a way to interconnect in rigorous fashion, and built consent and consensus on which better games we would like to be playing with our lives? I think in part what's going on is a tension between scales, behaviors that may have served primate tribes to succeed and thrive, those strategies and tactics no longer map to our globalized circumstance. This is part of the tension that I spoke about in previous weeks between egocentric and allocentric worldviews. I believe that transhumanism, which is the idea of getting off the planet Earth and colonizing the solar system and beyond, ought to be rejected in all of its forms, because at its root, it is based in a logic and philosophy and lived experience of extreme dissociation. I think the true test and ordeal that humankind faces in order to graduate into some higher consciousness and some higher order as a society is whether we can figure out how to be here well, how to live here well. That's the real test, in my opinion. But is there a way to organize us on a simple principle that can really unify us and that can create a path to reunification? That is, a path for those human cultures like our own that have diverged from the game life is supposed to be playing in the universe. How can we reassociate and reconnect with the living world and our place in it and our role in it? The number one thing that anyone can do to begin to restore right relationship, to begin to shift our culture internally, meaning a worldview, and collectively through our relations, is this work to reattach our life energy, spontaneously arising through us, to the work of creating greater conditions for life to thrive through our actions and through our existences. It's quite simple. It's elegant. It's obvious. And it is so natural. That's why I really want to drive home this point that when we are acting against nature, acting against our own true natures, therefore, we are living in a place of denial of our natures, which is inherently tragic and frustrating. Living in a place of denial of our natures, it's an inherently stressful situation. There's a type of deep-seated cognitive dissonance that I feel is driving a great deal of identity-based unrest in the world today. If we don't know who we are or what we're serving, that's an inherently stressful way of living. Because there's something in the body and the mind that cannot reconcile. And perhaps this is why people of great wealth have great psychological suffering too. And people who are poor, who must live within the constraints of artificial material scarcity, also suffer immensely undue burdens of stress, dissociation, and health issues. And I know this intimately from my own upbringing. When we are in denial of ourselves, we can never become whole. If we commit to learning the truth of who and what we are, we arrive at a path that actually integrates us, that reintegrates us into belonging with our own ancestral lineages, our own kin, our own human relations, but also the more than human world, the natural world, nature, which we love and cherish. How do we serve it? We serve it by becoming more in fidelity with our natures. Ultimately, our project as beings occupying the cognitive apex, so to speak, of living beings is to make sense of all, yes, all that has gone before and that feeds into the now and become stewards of the future. We must make sense of it all and transmute the karma we find there by taking responsibility for every pattern that passes into our knowledge and into our domain of influence, therefore, and redirect that energy in one direction, the one direction of creating more conditions for life to thrive and diversify in general. Living in a period of relative socioeconomic ease and comfort in the US has atrophied our direct sense-making abilities and our collaboration abilities. But we used to inhabit our ecosystems, and when we did, our senses, our minds, and our communal culture and discussion helped us survive. This is still what we need to survive. We need to reattune to those very capacities. But the scale of the work we're doing has changed. To address global wrongdoing that is also local, we need to understand that we are one with the living systems that comprise us. We need to understand that we are responsible for all of it now. We need to survive as a collective, not as an individual, not as a tribe. And we need to devote ourselves to this path, which is also a path of becoming more whole. The one most important thing you can do is reattach the life energy arising through you and direct it toward fostering outcomes that create more conditions for life. There are dozens and dozens of ways that this manifests in my life day to day. And this must also be true for you. Your life, others' lives, other species, conditions for existing, the overall biodiverse ecosystem interactions you are a part of, you must contribute to. It's fractal. It's fractal. You can and you must do it. And you must make sense of how to do it with your own unique position in these relationships and your own unique gifts in this life. It's the one thing to do. It's the one thing that you must do, and yet there are infinite creative ways for that to look. It is the one thing that can unravel all of the other delusion and wrongdoing. All the harm, all the trauma, all the wrong thinking, all of the mismappings that create suffering. All of it can be touched by this one praxis. All of it can be undermined if you devote yourself in this way. Your one task is to reattach your purpose to this purpose, your being to those outcomes. Everything else I could possibly say is an elaboration on that core premise. There are infinite ways to do it, and with this one idea alone, you yourself can become fractal practitioners. You don't have to study or learn anything further about this work or from me. That's the whole game right there. And it's the right game to play because it will bring about wholeness. It will bring about a return to complexity that we can love, manage, and appreciate. A return to beloved ecological stewardship and a return to beloved community through diversity, learning, curiosity, wonder, and care. reattachment to nature, reattachment to your lived experience as your direct source of insight into the whole world. Reattach to the impacts you have and the gifts you receive from your relationships with all beings, human and more than human. Reattach to the gifts that flow from your soul that you are destined to offer in this lifetime, being of true service to your relations. Reassociation with the living web of beings and your living past and future, as opposed to dissociation, which is admittedly pandemic today. Reunification. These are all words pointing to essentially the same thing. Can you imagine if our entire society began shifting from a paradigm of dissociation to one of reassociation? Will you make the vow to embody the purpose of life, to become an agent of life, to spread benevolent conditions for life through all that you touch, to amplify your aliveness in service to life all around you? Will you take the fractal praxis vow? Reassociation, reattachment, renaturalizing, reunification. These are all similar terms for pointing to the same thing. Whichever terms you prefer, I want to invite you into it. All of my work in fractal praxis, whether spiritual, intellectual theory and spoken word, all the way to embodied collective experiences facilitated through ritual spaces, all of it is about reassociation. This is the one purpose that I serve. I want to invite you into it. The best way to become a part of this is through Fractal Praxis membership, and I'll speak briefly on this now. There are two types of membership currently. The Engager membership is for people who wish to engage more with the ideas and practices of fractal praxis and just offer it some support. It's only $8 a month or $80 for the year to subscribe as an Engager member. Embodier membership is for people seeking deeper community relationships for their own original pursuit of wholeness, whatever that looks like. We have both online for non-local folks, meetups, as well as in-person meetups for folks in the Colorado Front Range. Our meetups so far have centered on witnessing our truths, weaving our truths, sense-making, meaning-making practices, intuition following, and practicing ceremony, ritual, and creativity together. All of this in service to reassociation. The Embodier membership is $26 a month or $260 for the year. Links below in the description. In closing, I am so grateful for your witness once more, and I hope this one idea of what you must do has moved you and will stay with you. Now is the time in the ritual where we pass the proverbial basket. If you'd like to support these sessions in fractal praxis, please make a donation using the link below, or consider becoming a Fractal Praxis member. I wish you farewell. Till next week. Merry meet and merry part, and merry meet again.